Hello and welcome to my channel. You're watching Ramesh Sir's lecture series. In our previous lecture 1, we talked about science versus literature. But in this session, we are going to deal with science fiction and its definition. In our previous lecture, we had talked about science and literature, in which we decided or we analyzed that literature is much more interested than science because it uses imagination limitlessly. So today, this is going to be lecture 2, and we'll discuss science fiction and then the genre science fiction. In order to understand the term, let us get an idea about fiction. Fiction is any imaginary story. It talks about imagination, all about fictitious stories, and something which is creative. And fiction talks about any topic which is unreal, which is non-real. You can say fiction is an imaginary tale which discusses all the topics and it covers all the genres of literature. Fiction is not real, it is imaginary in nature. We can use our imagination in order to draw a picture, in order to talk about the universe, in order to talk about anything which happens in life or something which doesn't happen in life. So it can discuss topic which is wholly and solely imaginary. It creates something which is unreal, which doesn't exist in life. It gives existence to the non-existent. Then we have another term, that is science. In our lecture 1, we talked about it. Science is something which believes in observation, experimentation, and it gives the factual results, and it believes in real objects. It rejects abstract. This point is very important. Science rejects abstract, and by abstract you mean what cannot be seen or which is not concrete. But as far as the literature or fiction is concerned, it accepts abstract. It talks about abstract. It gives you immense pleasure by talking about anything which is non-existent, which hasn't existence in the real life. So, science rejects this abstract notion. Anything which cannot be seen or anything which cannot be concrete or touched, that is rejected by science. So here we have a definition of science fiction. Science fiction is a genre or is a subgenre of fiction. And it talks about stories. It talks about tales, which is related to science and technology. So anything which discusses or is an imaginary story related to the science, we can call it science fiction. So science fiction talks about anything which is non-real in nature. We have examples. This character is the most supernatural, or you can say supervillain character of the Avenger movie. This character doesn't exist in real life. Okay? He has been portrayed and he has the existence in only fiction. And see, I'm giving you the example of science fiction. This Thanos doesn't exist in life. And we all know about his hand, how powerful he becomes when he has his hand. Although This is unreal, but it all is existent in literature. Although it's imaginary, but it talks about science. It talks about something which is related to science. So, the character of Thanos, this is a fictitious character, and he talks about science. So, we can say Thanos or the Avengers is an example of science fiction. We have another example of Doraemon. We all know how many gadgets do Doraemon use. And there are so many gadgets. But one most powerful and interesting gadget of Doraemon is Anywhere Door. This Anywhere Door, we can't think of it in real life. Wherever he wants to go, he just opens the door and reaches that spot. And he takes out all those gadgets from the small pocket. This is something related to science. We can call it science fiction. We have another example of Spider-Man. Spider-Man, how miraculous character he is. And it's all about science, and it gives you stories, or it represents the stories. It shows the incidents and actions of Spider-Man, how he helps the people, and how he flies in the air. This is the imaginary character who talks about science. Something or any tale which discusses about science, about miraculous things, about future, or about technology. We call it science fiction. So, in this session, we learned that science fiction is a fictitious story about science. And most importantly, the example of Griffin in the lesson Footprints Without Feet. He also develops a medicine through which he makes himself invisible. This is something which cannot be believed in real life. This only exists in literature. So, the character of Griffin is itself a science fiction. I hope this much is understood. On any confusion, you can comment me below and your answers will be satisfied. Thank you so much.